Do you want to learn effective ways to build relationships, generate sales, and grow your business from successful entrepreneurs, startups, and CEOs without listening to a long interview? If so, you've come to the right place. Gresham Harkless values your time and is ready to share with you precisely the information you're in search of. This is the I Am CEO podcast.
Hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Pablo Gonzalez of Connect with Pablo. Pablo, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Gresh, I am happy to be here, my man. Appreciate it.
No problem. Appreciate you. And what I wanted to do was just read a little bit more about Pablo so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Pablo has had success in Fortune 500 companies, multinational companies, and his entrepreneurial ventures alike. He has had success in the construction industry, the tech industry, and the nonprofit world. And he attributes all of it to one skill set: people skills. He's a guy that definitely wants to be your friend, a guy whose goal in life is to prove the value of human connection in all aspects of your life, starting with convincing the world that the future of business development is community-centered, community creation, I should say. He's a chief executive connector in his latest venture, Connect with Pablo. Pablo, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
That intro just made me so happy, man. I love how that sounds. Yeah, dude, I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready too. I'm excited to find out that I'm your friend, so that helps kick everything off on the right foot. But I wanted to hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story and what led you to get started with your business.
Yeah. I'm going to try to keep this as concise as possible, because I find that on a lot of podcasts, it's like you give this whole 20-minute backstory and then you'd like leave no time to give value, right? So, man, I graduated college when the world was just booming in construction. I went to work for a Fortune 500 builder in this executive and training program that moved me out to California, where I was running a $150 million business for them. And I was running a $15 million business. It was a $1.5 million a month. Okay. Totally different. I was running a $50 million business for them. I had like 150 employees.
Okay.
Out there, I became a green building expert, just kind of by osmosis, being out in California, doing this stuff. When 2008 hit and the world ended when it came to construction, I reinvented myself as a green building expert, moved back to Miami where I grew up, and I started a green building consulting company that 2 years in got acquired by my biggest customer. That was a hospital builder, university, big public project builder.
Nice.
I went in-house as director of sustainability, and in like a year and a half, I went from being this like super hungry entrepreneur that was just like educating the market and doing all these things and like killing to eat to like super fat and happy with all my processes figured out under this big thing. And I really wasn't working that hard. Mm-hmm. So I had to reinvent myself again, because I thought that if anybody ever took a look at how little I was actually doing on a day-to-day basis, I'd get fired. And luckily I got really involved in the community. And at that point, I started a couple different young professional groups for a couple different charities that put me on the board of these charities and this economic development agency in Miami. And then these things happened in succession where one, the CEO of the company that I was at got invited to be on this City for Smart Cities panel at the Economic Development Agency of Miami, and he didn't want to go. So they sent me in his stead, and I shared the stage with a couple of like really heavy hitters, the head of Latin America for like Cisco Systems and the head of the Smart Cities Initiative for, I forget what economic development agency, but it's like the World Bank type of stuff.
Right.
And me. And I just sat down, I delivered my thing on how sustainability fits into all this stuff. And at the end of the event, I had a line of like 6 people deep waiting to talk to me, which was a major aha moment for me in thinking, hey man, if I'm up on stage, I generally am seen as someone way smarter than I think I am, essentially, right? So I then took that and applied that to what I was dealing with at work, and I wanted to become more valuable. And I wanted to be more of a business developer. So I reached out to this developer that was doing this controversial project that had this sustainable component called trans-oriented development, which is they're building this project that encourages public transportation use. So I reached out to him. I said, I want to have this panel about transit-oriented development, talk about your project, put you on stage with a politician on the board of one of my charities and a land use attorney that I've done a bunch of project with. And I invited my young professional groups that I had been stewarding to show up. And lo and behold, having that event for that guy brought him to the table with a $100 million contract for my company, and boom, I'm a business developer, right? So that was a major transition point there. Then I started thinking, I want to test this whole having a community, leveraging stages model in an industry that isn't construction. I was hoping to expand my reach outside of Miami, and as luck would have it, I had the chance to join this Amazon software for sellers startup company. And what I didn't realize, that was in my network, again, somebody that I knew, friend of a friend. And I was so excited at the opportunity that I kind of jumped on a burning ship without even looking. So in the first 2 months of me being there, we went from 500 users to 300 users. And I'm the VP of business development, right? So not a good look for your boy.
Right.
And everything that I had planned on doing was now very limited by our cash flow. So I went to work doing what I knew that I know how to do, which is create a little community, make that into a stage, leverage that. So at that point, I reached out to the 12 our most important customers that were all doing like $2 to $10 million a year on Amazon. Started planning these bi-weekly calls where we would provide a little bit of content, and then we'd go around the table like, hey, what are you struggling with? How can we all help and give each other advice? Within a couple of months, everybody was like best friends. We planned this like trip to Panama. We spent 3 days touring the Panama Canal, partying, getting to know each other, doing SWOT analysis of each other's businesses and adding value. And out of that trip, we garnered all this knowledge that we then created a new course around that we sold for $5,000 a pop, which was a big cash raise for us. And then we created this event 6 months later where 8 of them traveled to Jacksonville to present to the rest of the customer base that was paying $1,000 to be in this event about what they're good at, right? So like put them on the stage, kind of what I had seen. Right. At the end of that year, I felt that I did what I needed to do inside this company. I proved that my thing works. I feel like I saved the company through what was a really, really hairy situation that had nothing to do with me. And I said to my partner, this was a fun experiment. I don't think I really want to build anything with you anymore. So I went on this 90-day purposeful pause to where I had some money in the bank. I had proven these things out to myself. I had to figure out how to package it. And I wanted to figure out where I want to be in 10 years as opposed to what my next opportunity is going to be, which as somebody that loves connecting and I'm always networking and I'm pretty well spoken, I always get offered a bunch of stuff and I fall in love really quickly. So I didn't want to make the same mistake. Right. So I took 90 days and I booked these like 5 conferences where I started, it was like the Gary Vee conference, the Ryan Moran Capitalism conference, the Grant Cardone 10X conference, the Russell Brunson ClickFunnels, right? Like all these like influencer-led conferences. And after the Gary Vee one, I started thinking, man, all these people here are real sharp. They're doing big things, but they're coming here thinking that listening to Gary on stage is going to change their life. Which, whatever, man. Listen, Gary's podcasts have changed my life too, but I got it in podcast form. And while these people were all talking out to the same 5 or 6 people that they came there with, or the few people they met, I was walking away with like 15, 20 new friends per day. So by the second conference that I got to, I was like, all right, these people don't have the same reps and networking and relationship building on the fly like I have had by being part of these charities that I was a part of in Miami, right? Like I'm at like a networking happy hour 2-3 times a week doing that stuff, right? And then eventually when you're on committees, you're like on stage introducing someone, then you're on like panels, right? So like all these different skill sets. So I started introducing myself as a professional networker, and people were like, oh, okay, I want to talk to this guy. What's up with this? I never heard of this. And all this time I'm thinking, I'm just trying to figure out where I want to be in 10 years, not like how I'm monetizing my next thing. Right. At Grant Cardone's conference, I started realizing all the different ways that you can monetize being on stage, from the fee that you would get as a speaker to how you can capture the lead and then nurture it, and then the info products and all the different things, events, all the different kinds of things you could do. That was a big finding for me. It was this guy, Pete Vargas's presentation. And again, I keep adding people to my list of people that I'm meeting at all these things. And then I went to Russell Brunson's and I got to really understand the infopreneurship business model. So I finished this 90 days with like a real clear picture of how I can monetize just about anything, because I went through all these. But more importantly, I had a new Excel sheet of like 300 people that I've met that I'm like following up with, that I have categorized with wants and needs and what they do and things of the sort. And I started trying to work that into a business model. And at first I thought, man, I have this speech that I gave before I left Miami about the value of networking, how to do it, tips and tricks of someone that's always done it. And I thought I can go on stage and then I can have this training course in the background with like a book of like free book plus shipping and then an upsell. And as I kicked that down the stream, people kept asking me, why don't you have a mastermind? Like I would love for you to like put together a mastermind. And I really wasn't comfortable with the idea of charging people to be my friend at this point in my life, which I mean, I was in college, I was in a fraternity. So, and then at one point, as I'm exploring and I'm still seeking, I get introduced, friend of a friend, to this guy, Brendan Kane, who had managed a big movie studio's digital media department for 7 years, then went off on his own to build some big platforms for a couple of really famous people like Taylor Swift and Rihanna and whatever. And then after all that success, he was getting tired of everybody telling him it's easy to build these followings for celebrities. So he devised the formula and he said, I can do this for anybody. In 30 days, he built 1 million followers for himself. Then he wrote a book about it. Now he's touring everywhere, speaking and getting these like big consulting contracts.
Nice.
So when I talked to him, I was just kind of picking his brain about how do I become a professional speaker, because I was trying to break into that, right? Because I value stages more than anything, right? That's why I'm so grateful to be on your podcast, to be on your stage. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
After I'm done like picking his brain, I approach it like I approach all relationship building. And I'm like, how can I help you, man? How can I be of value to you? He's like, I'm not really sure. I'm like, well, what are you struggling with? And he's like, well, man, I've got this group that, I'm killing it getting these like $20,000, $30,000 consulting contracts, but I want to scale my influence and I want to help more people. And I've got a couple of groups that I'm trying to do. That's like $1,000 a month consulting group and a $50 a month group coaching group. And I'm not getting people to stay on. So I'm not paying enough attention to what I need to be doing. And I'm just off doing other things. And I'm like, dude, this is exactly what I did at the last place that I was at. And I'd be happy to give you everything that I've learned from it, or schedule a couple of calls and let you do your thing, or schedule a couple of calls and workshop it out with you. And then you go do your thing. Or if you want, I can send you a proposal of exactly how I would implement it. What would you pay me for? This is what I would do. He's like, that's what I want to do. I want to provide as much value as I can to my people. I want somebody that's done this to just, show up and tell me where to swing, man. And I'm going to hit home runs. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's how it started.
That makes perfect sense. I wanted to, and you might have already touched on this. I wanted to ask you, I guess, for what I call your secret sauce. And this might have been what you already touched about, but it's whatever you feel kind of makes you unique and makes you different.
The actual secret sauce that has developed, and my superpower, is that I genuinely find something fascinating in everybody that I meet. Like I'm very, very interested in you. And I know that there's this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson that's every man I meet is in some way my superior. And from that, I can learn from him.
Incredible superpower and an example of a secret sauce. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but something that makes you more effective and efficient.
I think that the way that I reach out to people via email or or hit them on the DM or whatever I'm doing, I have a formula for it, and I think it works really well. And I'll be happy to give two, right? Like I have a formula for that, and I have a formula for how I make intros. Okay. But when I'm reaching out to somebody, I always start with the word you instead of I, because when you take a selfie of a group of people and you pass it around, what's everybody looking at?
Themselves.
Mm-hmm. So if you start with the word you, you're more likely to get that person's attention. The other thing is when I introduce people, right? Like I said, I look at everything as stages. When I introduce two people, and this is a big part of why I'm successful, is because I like connecting people. I use that as a stage as well. I say, Gresh, meet Pablo, Pablo, meet Gresh. Pablo, Gresh is this guy that's got the CEO podcast. He's unlocked all the secrets of CEOs, and he's got this stage that he helps people with. It's a brilliant lead magnet, and he's a genius at marketing, and he can help you do all this stuff. Gresh, meet Pablo. Pablo's obsessed with human connection. He wants to connect you with everybody else. He has a wide network. I'm sure he has a lot of value to offer you. And if you have a clientele that you want to turn into a community, man, he can monetize it for you and create all this passive income. I hope this has been fruitful. Happy connecting, everybody, right? So I write a little paragraph about each person and why they're freaking awesome and why I think they're awesome. And then I say, I think the two of you would get along great together because you're both extraordinary people.
Yeah, and I think that's perfect. And I love the strategic step-by-step process by which you do that. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget, and that is a word of wisdom or a piece of advice. Or if you could hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
I'd say the biggest mistake that everybody makes is assuming that the person that you're speaking to is already thinking what you're thinking. Mm-hmm. And by that, I mean that you never start a conversation with anybody. You are simply entering a conversation that's already going on in someone's head.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate that. And I wanted to ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Pablo, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Being a CEO is having an opportunity at true success. The way that I define true success, it has 4 steps. The first one is find something that you love doing that you're really, really good at. Step 2, find a way to use that to serve others. Step 3 is find a way to monetize that while still being genuine. So you are doing something you love doing, that you're really good at, you're serving others with it, and you're also making some money on it because you're creating so much value that people want to pay you, not because you have to trick them into being your customer. And then number 4 is the definition of true success, which is building a business around that to the point where you have freedom. And by freedom, I don't mean, the freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. The freedom is the doing.
Absolutely. Pablo, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your work even more, and all the awesome things you're doing to make, the world a better place. I wanted to pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know. And then, of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
I think that if you are somebody who is trying to create content around yourself to grow your personal brand, and you're trying to scale your impact instead of just serving people that can pay you $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, you want to figure out how to get like a group of people that can pay you $50,000 that you can scale out. That's what I'm doing for people right now, because like I said, my mission is to prove to the world that community creation is the future of business development. And that is the customer that I would like to talk to. Apart from that, like I said, I want to connect with absolutely everybody because I'm a connector. And I think that I can add some kind of value to your journey. If you're listening to this and you connect with what I'm saying, I would love to help you figure out whatever you're trying to communicate, whatever you're trying to do. I'm always trying to help people. Best way to reach me, my email address is youshould@connectwithpablo.com. My Instagram is PG Storytelling. So Pablo Gonzalez Storytelling, PG Storytelling. And my website is connectwithpablo.com.
Definitely. I definitely appreciate you. I appreciate all the value bombs that you dropped today. We will have those links in the show notes as well so that everybody can connect with Pablo, as the saying goes. And I appreciate your time again, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
You too, man.
Thank you for listening to the I Am CEO podcast powered by Blue 16 Media. Tune in next time and visit us at IAM391.co. I Am CEO is not just a phrase, it's a community. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating. Grab CEO gear at www.ceogear.co. This has been the I Am CEO podcast with Gresham Harkless. Thank you for listening.